Hello and welcome to Chinballs TV. I am Scop and this is Dead Island 2, running on a mid-range 6700 XT at 3440 by 1440. But how does that scale down to the deck? Let's find out. So if you're aiming for a high refresh rate, you might be tempted to set everything on the low preset, including the FXAA. But the FXAA produces this weird sort of shimmer, so I'd highly recommend going for a TAA. I've tried the low and the high and none of them seem to make any difference to performance. But as you can see, it produces a much more stable image. And before I move on to the other presets, I just want to point out that if you change just the texture settings to be something like medium or high, you actually get a much higher frame rate. There appears to be a bug with the low textures, so if you are aiming for the high refresh rate, stick everything on low except for the textures. So I'll quickly switch back to the low textures, and as you can see, the performance has dropped by at least 13 or 14 frames a second. Now sticking everything to the medium preset, the performance is slightly better than low, and also now we have some grass that moves, as well as the trees, but we've also introduced this sort of strange shimmer effect in the distance, and I'll show this off later, but this is not affected by the world position, but it's fixed to the screen position, so it's really strange. You can always see it when you're moving. And moving over to high, again, the grass density has changed and the grass in the distance is now drawn, and performance is hit quite severely with just above 36 frames per second here. And just for science, this is what the game looks like on the ultra presets. I can honestly tell no difference at all between ultra and high, other than the frame rate is again lower still. We're just above 30 frames a second here. And on any preset, if we want to get rid of that awful shader shimmer, we can change the shader quality to low and that will get rid of it, but that will have the side effect of the grass no longer moving. The trees still move because that is controlled by a different preset, that is controlled by the foliage detail preset. And if you were considering using FSR to boost performance, then I wouldn't bother, quite honestly. In every situation that I tried with performance, quality or balanced, it basically either ran worse or about the same. So this is the game on medium with FSR Performance on the right. And in general, the frame rate is always lower when FSR is turned on, and the visual quality is worse. You can see this with the signs on the left here, and also when explosions happen. I didn't take any footage of explosions, but they look really awful in FSR, on any FSR. And if you're a Windows or a dual boot user, then I would say that Windows 11 and SteamOS perform pretty similar. Maybe the Windows 11 can get to a higher frame rate, but it still dips in the same places by the same amount. The frame rate is just very wonky in general in this game, so I don't think there's much benefit over either OS in this situation, other than with the Windows version, the screen tearing is pretty damn awful. So if you are using the Windows version, you are going to have to put VSync on and probably put a 30 frame cap on. And to be honest, the 30 FPS cap is probably a good idea on SteamOS as well. You could get away with a 40 FPS cap if you're using the low settings with the high textures. You would still probably see some dips. If the dips don't bother you so much, then sure, try higher. I have actually been playing this running uncapped on a lot of stages, and it honestly depends on where you are in the game. Some parts run amazing, like this boss fight here was mostly in the high 50s to the 60s, and other parts just randomly drop to nothing for no seemingly apparent reason. Probably some optimizations needed there, if possible, from the devs. Also, just a quick note about some UI elements, like the weapon wheel for one. You may notice they're a little bit of a pixelated mess. The same goes for your inventory and also your skill cards and even your quests. The names for the quests that can turn into a pixelated mess when you hover over them. This is down to the deck's half rate shading option, which I thought was helping originally, but no, it basically makes all of these things look terrible, so turn that off. But regardless of the wonky frame rate in most areas of this game, I have still been having a lot of fun with Dead Island 2, both on my deck and my main PC. I will mostly be playing this on my main PC, but it's great that a handheld such as the deck can even run this game at all. And that's what it is, basically. Just set your expectations accordingly, quite honestly. Scorp out. Thanks.